Hey everyone, so we're just going to go over one of the first topics in our course, and that is basic music notation. We are going to start very close to the top with placing pitches on the staff. So, a staff, or at least the 5-line staff, which is the most common one, just consists of 5 horizontal lines. And different musical instruments will have different numbers, but the most common you find is a 5-line staff, and this is basically a graph. We're going to place notes onto that graph. And notes are always written with some sort of oval. And that's usually called a note head. And in this case, this is a whole note. Different ones will have filled in ovals or things attached like little vertical lines and things attached to it. But in general, you'll always get some sort of oval. And that oval will always be placed in one of two places, either directly on a line, so notice how the line cuts this oval in half straight down the middle, or it will be exactly in between two lines, or at least touching the edge. So you might also have an oval down here at the bottom, touching one edge. So it will either touch the sides of the oval or one side of it, or go down the center. And we call it going down the center being on a line, and we call the note being alongside a line being on a space. So line, space. So deeper sounds are lower on the staff and higher sounds are higher on the staff. And as we go up, it would go up in order. Let's hear what that sounds like right there if it has a treble clef. So we're just going to assume that we know what the first sound is. Don't worry about that yet, but I'm going to go ahead and play those sounds. So notice in my music notation program, I still have an oval. It just happens to have some other stuff attached to it. And that oval represents a sound. So I'm going to go straight up E, F, G, A, B. So you can hear it feels like very straightforward differences from one line up to the next bass, up to the next line, up to this bass, and so forth. Now we come to this funny, cool calligraphy type symbol that we have here. We have a variety of what are called clefs on staffs, and depending on the different instrument that you play, there are tons of these, but the main two are the treble, which looks like a fancy G, and the bass, which doesn't really look like a fancy F, but that's what it is. So let's look at treble first. So this is a fancy G. So a calligraphy style G, and you can actually put it anywhere in relation to these 5 lines, but this is the most common place. And whatever line lines up with this kind of central area of that, it almost looks like a little crosshair right here, this little X. So it's like circle or X marks the spot right here. The treble clef sets this line to be a G. So it's a fancy G, and it's saying, hey, this line is G. Once you know which line is G, you can actually find every other note. So we always go up the musical alphabet when we go up a space or up a line. So one line or one space up. So if I start at G, the music alphabet goes from A to G. So if you hit G, you actually start over. So over and over again in music, if we're going up, it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G again, and that just keeps repeating as you get lower or higher. So we only have 7 letters that we use for music. And so if you know what this line is, then you automatically know if I go upward, I go up in the alphabet, the musical alphabet. So the next place that we get after G is restarting at A. And then next place we can possibly live up on a line. So notice it always goes line, space, line, space, line, space, and it works that way forever. So A to B, and then up another letter in the alphabet. And then if we go downward, the alphabet simply goes backwards. So G, F, E, D, C, B, A, right? So can we figure out what's just one space below G? Well, my mouse had to go downward to get to this place. So G and down means backwards in the alphabet, right? So G, back one in the alphabet, we can even see it over here. G, back one spot in the alphabet is F. And then I could figure out the next line below that would be E, and the next space up against the staff would be D, and so forth forever, pretty much. Now again, there are two common clefs that we use. So the treble clef, or the G clef, is this one. And the other one that we're going to experience in our class, and probably the other most common of all the clefs, is the F clef, or often referred to as the bass clef, because a lot of deep instruments use it. And this one, we just put our notes in going downward instead of upward, since the line that this F is placed on is actually the second line from the top. So remember, the treble clef was the second line from the bottom, where its little crosshair was. The bass clef has these two dots, and whatever's in between those two dots sets F. So fancy F, this must be F. Then if I go down a spot from there, so a line to the next space down, I go backwards in the alphabet. Downward is always backwards in the music alphabet. Up is always upwards in the music alphabet. So up one spot here would be G, up another spot would be A, and going downward we can see it really clearly, right? F, down a spot is E, D, C, B, A, and then the music alphabet starts over, G again, F again, forever. As deep as we can get and as high as we can get with sound. And that's basically the staff, so the 5-line staff, and the two clefs that we're going to use in our course. So I'm going to hit next real quick. And here is another way of thinking through the notes. So one way of thinking through the notes is linear, right? We can just go up and down in the alphabet like this. E, up one is F, up one is G, up one is the alphabet starting over again, A, B, C, D, E, and so forth, backwards as well. And that is really useful just in general, especially if I just need to get, say, one spot down or two spots down from the previous note. So if I'm on a note here and I see another note go up, if I knew this one, it's very easy to just go, oh, up in the alphabet from here. This is F, so this must be G. And the same thing, if it goes downward, this is F, oh, this must be E. So back one, right? Now, the other nice way to be able to kind of jump around the notes and learn and memorize these notes really fast is to be able to skip around. So we have two ways of skipping through the notes. We go E, G, B, D, F. So all the lines is one way, right? And that's skipping a note each time, but notice we're always on a line, right? So if we memorize just the lines, we can quickly figure out anything on a line. And I like Elvis's guitar broke down Friday. So you see, say, just this note, and you go, okay, I just need to, it's on a line, so I'm just going to go through my mnemonic. Elvis's guitar broke. Oh, that's B. Or if I see a note here, Elvis's guitar broke down. Oh, Friday, that's F, right? And the other way to jump through the notes quickly is the spaces, which is pretty too, right? Right? So all spaces spell face, F-A-C-E. So one way to do this is to go, all right, I see this note, it's on a space, so I need to go F-A-C. Oh, that's C. And then it probably makes more sense not to use the mnemonic from here to here, because why should I have to think through all that if I can just think, oh, this is space to the next line up? I'm probably just going to go up alphabetically. But I have two options, right? I can jump around. I can use a mnemonic to get to this note, E, G, B, D. Oh, Elvis's guitar broke down. Or I can do, I know this one now because I used F-A-C, right, to find that. And then up one spot is just D, right, next letter in the alphabet. So you may find your mind switching back and forth between using mnemonics and using the linear fashion of going through the notes just in order alphabetically. F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. So hopefully that's making sense. And then let's look real quick at bass clef as well. All right, and then here's our bass clef set. So you may have learned different mnemonics. I'm going to switch clefs here on my notation. And notice it's for deep instruments. So you're going to hear deeper sounds here. And because they're Don't worry about the red note heads. They should be black. It's just I don't feel like closing and opening the program to get it doing the right thing. So notice they're deeper, and we know that the bass clef itself sets F, right? The F line is here. So we also have a way of skipping around. So I can count my way down one note at a time to get to that first note I had. So F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F. That took a long time. It might be better to start from a mnemonic on the lines. Good burritos don't fall apart. So true, right? Good burritos don't fall apart. So this one isn't included in that, but G is right near it, right? So if good is there, then the first note I had is just down one. So from G down one spot in the alphabet, F, and we're good. F, and then there's my G. And now that I see that they're in order, I might just think the alphabet going through these rather than using a mnemonic, right? So maybe your first note that you see, you use a mnemonic, or if, I did it again. You use a mnemonic, and for the assignments where you're naming these notes, that's going to be more likely, right? You're going to see random notes displayed, and you're going to have to give them a letter. So for those, you're probably going to use the mnemonics a lot. So good burritos don't fall apart for the lines. Good burritos don't fall apart. And then for, don't worry about the colors, right? For the spaces, it's all cows eat grass. So all cows eat grass. So the spaces are that. So two different rules depending on which clef you have. Bass clef is good burritos don't fall apart and all cows eat grass. And treble clef is going to be Elvis's guitar broke down Friday and face the word. So let's just do a couple quick practice runs and then we'll be done. So here's our note naming in treble just so you see what it's going to be like. And there we go. So what note is it? Well, I'm going to use the mnemonics through these most likely. So F, it's on a space, so I'm going to go up my mnemonics from the bottom space. It's treble clef, F, A, C. Okay, C. Oh, that's F. It's bottom space. First thing of the mnemonic, right? Oh, and here's a line, so that means it's Elvis's guitar broke down Friday. So that's Elvis right there. By the way, you can also type the letter E on your keyboard. That should work. Elvis's guitar broke. Okay, B. And then eventually in your head, F, A, C, E. Okay. Right? You want to get used to actually being able to do this without needing that extra mnemonic and just knowing, oh, that's A, right? Get used to just giving it the correct label, the letter label, and not needing forever to have to go face, F, A. Okay, A. Right? Elvis's guitar broke down Friday. But eventually you just want to know, oh, that's F. Off we go. Bass. Okay, new rules, right? So I can walk my way down from this F line, but that doesn't make as much sense as just using the mnemonic, right? All cows eat grass. So that's all. Oh, and then good burritos don't fall apart, and that's right on the bottom line. Good. All cows. Okay. Good burritos. All cows. C. And eventually you just want to go G. E. Okay, and here's one below. So I don't have a mnemonic for that guy, but I can use the mnemonic still. So here's the line, right? So that's the good line. And this space is one below that line. So that's just one spot back in the alphabet, right? G is here. So back one is F, right? Under downward one is backwards in the alphabet one. So G down to F. So I still use the mnemonic to shorten the amount of thinking I need to do. I don't want to go F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F. That takes forever, right? We want to just go, okay, I know G at least, and this is just one spot down from there, F. Cool, so hopefully that makes sense. Good luck with those first exercises. Have fun. See you in the next one.